Hello, everybody. I wanted to originally was going to schedule some more Zoom meetings, but thought maybe I'd try to just put together a recorded presentation, let you view it, and then obviously you can shoot me any questions that you have. So I'm going to try this and just um, cover a few topics about the college recruiting process and see how this works. That way you can kind of view it on your own time and then come up with your own questions. So I'm going to go over just some statistics about the colleges and college recruiting process, and then also go over a little bit about how to create your list of schools. So see how this works, and we'll go from there. All right, so normally, like I said, this is a presentation that I do that takes about a couple hours. So over a number of short videos like this, we'll cover all of these topics. So like I said, we're going to cover today the statistics, programs, the cost of college, and then creating your list of schools. So as we talk about the different options for college athletics, soccer specific, obviously, we have 4 different levels is usually what we talk about: NCAA Division I, NCAA Division II, NCAA Division III, and NAIA. But however, in our area here in the Midwest, we also have a really good option for junior college. Obviously makes college affordable, as well as just gives you an opportunity to maybe stay close to home, get some general education classes out of the way, things like that. So we do have a pretty decent junior college system in our region. So these are the different breakdowns for the different levels in regards to how many programs there actually are. So the NAIA, there's 188 men's and women's. The NCAA, you have Division III, 428, men's 408. Division II is 225 for the women and 207 for the men. And NCAA Division I, you have 310 women and 206 for the men. So in total, just a little more for the women than the men, 1,100 and plus for the women and 1,000 or so for the men. And then I broke it down a little bit more because typically recruiting happens more on a local / regional base. We do definitely place some players outside of our region, but the highest percentage of players get placed somewhere in our area. So I broke it down in the Midwest. There's a total of 254 women's programs at these 4 levels and 209 men's programs. So it's important to know that although this may seem like a lot, when you break it down to the number of opportunities, you really have to understand the amount of players that are vying for these positions at these schools. So from a scholarship opportunity perspective, so this is the number of scholarships that schools are able to give. At the NAIA level, there's 12 for men, 12 for women. Now, this also is dependent on whether the school is fully funded or not. And what I mean by that is the NAIA and the NCAA says this is how many scholarships this is the max amount of scholarships you can offer. But sometimes you may have a school that's not fully funded. And so that maybe their school says, okay, NAIA allows us for 12, but based on our budget and such, we can only offer 9. So it is a good idea to try and get this information when you get down to the time where you're talking to colleges about possible scholarship opportunities. Finding out if they're fully funded is always a really good idea. So NAIA, men and women, you have 12 scholarships. NCAA Division I, you have 9.9 for men and 14 for women. NCAA Division II is 9 men, 9.9 for women. And then NCAA is academic only. So now, when we talk about NAIA, NCAA Division I and Division II, we're talking about athletic scholarships. So these are the amount of scholarships from an athletic side. Now, most schools can do what they call stacking scholarships. So you have the 12 and the different numbers for the athletic side, and then you also have the opportunity to get academic scholarships. So they stack those scholarships, stack academic and athletic together, and that would be your overall scholarship offer from each individual school. At the NCAA Division III level, it's only academic. So there's plenty of scholarship opportunities at the Division III level, but it's all based off of your academics. So not only your GPA, but also your SAT, ACT scores. Now, with that being said, over the past couple of years, you've seen a lot more universities go test optional, which means in order to get into school, to get admitted into school, they're not necessarily requiring you to provide them with an ACT or an SAT score. However, a lot of these schools still keep those or use those scores for scholarship purposes. So you may be able to get admitted into a school without having to use your standardized testing scores, and you'll always have to use your GPA. But in order to receive some academic scholarships, those standardized testing scores may still come into play. So as I said, the slide before, I gave you the number of scholarships or number of schools in the Midwest. So in the NAIA men's and women, there's 756 scholarship opportunities. Now just put that into perspective with the amount of players that play our sport, and you can see how competitive it is. So this is the reason why we try to instill some strategies in the college placement platform so that hopefully you can set yourself apart from other players that are going through the recruiting process, knowing that the total number of scholarships that players can get is really, when it comes down to it, pretty low. In CAA Division I, there's 366 compared to 742 on the women's side. So obviously that number, if you're a female, there's a better opportunity. Division II, 279 for males, 485 for females. And then now the cost of scholarships, or excuse me, cost of college. Now this obviously varies from year to year. So these numbers that I got were from 2017 and 18. Sometimes the players don't have an idea what the cost of college is really all about. Parents are usually the most interested in this, obviously, because a lot of times the parents are the ones that have either put aside planning for college financial obligations, or filling out your FAFSA paperwork to try and figure out what type of grants or loans you'll be getting to help pay for college. So it's important for the players to understand how expensive college really is. Excuse me, and how you can make it affordable. So an average public in-state is $25,300. Out-of-state tuition is $41,000. Obviously, when you get to the private schools, they're a little bit more expensive at $51,000. And then I put in the junior college in here just to show you the drastic drop in tuition when it comes to junior colleges compared to four-year schools. So public junior college is $4,800 and private junior college is $15,500. So what's important to know here is that obviously the public institutions typically are a little bit less expensive, but when it's all said and done, all the schools have different ways in which they can try and make college affordable. So just because you have a private school that may cost a lot more, maybe that school has a lot more scholarship opportunities that still would make it affordable compared to a public school. So we definitely have to investigate one school to the next in regards to how much it is, and factoring in all the factors like tuition, extra fees, books, all those types of things. But just to give an idea, college definitely is a burden when it comes to the financial aspect. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about creating your list of schools and how to go through this process. It's obviously one that's probably, obviously really important as you try to figure out what you're looking for in a school, the distance from home, the academic programs that they offer, the money side of it, the level of play. Do you want to go to a big school that's very competitive and has 30 people on their roster and it's very difficult to get on the field because the competition is really high? Or do you choose to go to a little bit of a smaller school, maybe concentrate a little bit more on your academics, go to a school that has maybe 24, 25 players on their roster, and now getting on the field and get some playing time, maybe scholarship opportunity increases by the way you choose your school. So it's important to choose schools based off a lot of different factors. You have to be realistic with your playing level. Now, this is a big one because most believe that they are better than what they truly are, and that's just a fact of the matter. Us as parents always think our kids are the best, right? And that's just because we're advocate for our kids. But the reality is that we have to be realistic with our playing. We have to be true to ourselves. We have to listen to the evaluations that you get from the club coaches and also from the college coaches, and build your list based off of the feedback that you're getting from those people that are around you the most, that are able to evaluate your playing level, that are able to give you feedback on your playing level, so that in the end, when you build your list, you're building a list of realistic schools that you believe you can play at based off of the feedback that you're getting from the schools. So I talk about all the different levels. I think it's healthy to choose schools from all levels. You have the scholarship opportunities at the Division I, Division II, and NAIA levels from an athletic side. And then you have the academic, like I said, for the Division III. Typically, when you're starting off in your process, it's okay to have more Division Is if that's your ultimate goal than the other levels, but it's still smart to start to create those relationships with the other level schools at the beginning of your process, just to keep them interested. Another reason for that is, in a matter of 4 years, there can be lots of change when it comes to college coaches. Actually, every single year, college coaching and positions of where college coaches end up changes. All assistant coaches at the college level ultimately want to become a head coach at some point, right? So they move a lot. So you may build a relationship with a coach at a lower level school, and by the time you're done with your process, they're at a higher level school, and you've created that relationship, and maybe they think you're good enough to play at the higher level, and so you could take advantage of those types of relationships. So it's always good to build a list of schools from all the different levels. Again, I talked a little bit about schools within the region. Typically, what I've seen over the past 12, 15 years of helping players go through the process is the majority of them commit to the Midwest and then kind of South and East. We have a lot of high academic schools on the East Coast, so we tend to see a lot of players finding opportunity on the East Coast when it comes to the academic side. And then occasionally we get the West Coast. We have some players in, like Texas and such. When you get far west, it's really difficult, especially because of, taking a state like California, where it's really big. There's lots of opportunities from as far as schools go, but there's also a ton of soccer players in California. So if you just browse, just go on a Google search and start, looking at schools in California, look at their rosters, look where their players are from. You'll notice that a lot of the players are from California and or that far west region. So if you really want to try and maximize your opportunity, choosing more schools on your list in our region is going to be beneficial to you. Choosing schools where there's already a relationship built. Now, this comes from like relationships that I may have over the years, that the other club coaches may have over the years, but it also means where players from your club are currently playing or where they've played in the past. The ultimate goal in this whole process is and what I do is build relationships with the college coaches, build relationships with the players, build relationships with the club coaches, and then put it all together and bring those relationships together. So we want to take advantage of those relationships that we've already built. So when you're looking for schools, do a little bit of research, look at their rosters, maybe ask the club coaches, hey, where are some of the schools that we've been placing our players, and make sure to add some of those schools to your list. So sharing your list with your coaches is important, also with myself. I'll guide you and I'll be able to help you as you build your lists. But it's going to be important to share them so that you can listen to the input from the club coaches and player and myself, right? So we're going to look at your schools and say, for example, you're a middle level player on your club team. and you build your list and you have some high profile schools like, let's say, Penn State or um, Florida State or Duke, right? Those are all really high level schools when it comes to soccer. And those schools are typically recruiting national team level players. So if you have some of those schools on your list, you have to understand that based off of the feedback from your club coaches or myself, we may remove some of those schools just because it's super competitive, right? With that being said, one of the things that I'll talk about later, but just want to hint on a little bit right now is if you really, really would love to go to a big school, and let's just say the soccer is just too high of a level for you, one of the options is to still attend that university and play club soccer. And I have lots of great examples of players playing club soccer and having great experiences. So even though you may share your list with the coaches and we may say, yeah, you know what, North Carolina is just a little bit too high for you, but that's really a school that fits you from an academic and financial purpose. You know, maybe seeing what the club soccer program has to offer may be of interest to you. So as your process develops, as it starts to get into full effect where you're being assessed by the college coaches, starting to communicate with the coaches, going to ID camps, them coming to your showcases and giving you evaluations, your list of schools are going to change based off of the feedback that you're getting from those schools. You may even get a straight up, you know what, at this time, we're not going to pursue you anymore as a recruit, you know, good luck with your process. And that's okay. The thing is that when we get any type of information where we say, you know what, we don't think there's opportunity, we want to replace those schools with other schools to see if we can find opportunity elsewhere. It's always healthy to have 10 to 15 schools constantly on your list. Obviously, once it gets down to the late junior year, early senior year, where you're really concentrating on the schools of interest, your list of 10 to 15 schools will come down to about 3 to 5 schools, hopefully in the end, that you have to choose from. So be open to making some changes based off of how your process is developing. Choose schools from the same conference. This is a big one. You know, really when it comes down to it, it's a business. It's a business for the college coaches to try and maximize the amount of players, the amount of good players that they get into their program by using those scholarship opportunities and splitting up those scholarships, right? So when you choose schools from the same conference, what you're doing is you're telling the schools, hey, I have interest from other schools in your conference. And now it becomes a business. It becomes a battle for them to see, you know, if they're interested in you, you know, what type of scholarship is it going to take for you to choose them over another school in their conference. So it's always a good idea to have more than one school from a particular conference. Make sure you're choosing schools on all factors. For most players, your college career is where your competitive playing career is going to end. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, playing in an indoor league when you're 32 years old and hopefully not pulling your hamstring, right? But I'm just talking about from a competitive standpoint, the largest percentage of players aren't going to play professional soccer. So these last 4 years of competitive soccer are going to be at the college level. So you want to have an enjoyable experience. You want to be able to create those friendships. You want to be able to maximize your playing time when you're in college. So by choosing the school based off of all the different factors, that's going to be very important. So make sure that your schools on your list fit you academically, fit you financially, socially, and athletically. And be flexible. Like you hear about the perfect fit, or you hear about the great fit, and that's true. You can have a great fit. I don't know if there's a such thing called a perfect fit. Like, for example, you may find a school that academic fits you fantastic, but maybe on the financial side, it's going to be a burden, or it's going to be a little bit difficult. But after getting some scholarships, talking to your parents, thinking about those things, maybe the financial piece doesn't fit you perfect, but it still fits, right? So keeping that school on your list based off of all the different factors and understanding that the perfect school isn't always the one that you end up at is very important. We'll talk about a few different ways to find schools, and then we'll leave this presentation at that. So I talked a little bit about the Sports Recruits platform and how you can use the Sports Recruits to find your list of schools. But here you'll see 3 other ways in which you can find it. And I'll send these links out to on the Team Snap platform so that you can do a little bit of research. But the first one is an NCAA directory. You can click on that directory. You can choose and break down schools based off of the division and things like that. And it gives you a really good opportunity to find some schools based off of an NCAA direct link. Same thing with the NAIA. And then the last one is, believe it or not, Wikipedia. You can simply just Google list of NCAA Division I schools, and may scroll down a little bit, but you'll be able to find lists of every single NCAA Division I school that has either men's or girls programs. So these are 3 different ways in which you can start to build those lists on top of what we talked about earlier with the Sports Recruit search engines. So I hope you found this informative. Obviously, some questions may come up, and so by all means, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, set up a time to talk about any of the questions that you may have. And then please give feedback, if you don't mind, in regards to how you feel this presentation went. Thank you so much. Take care.